Ethan, you just mentioned transferable skills for BIM. What are you
Yeah,
talking
I
about?
did. Yeah, transferable skills in BIM software. Yeah, previous episode we talk a lot about. There are so many BIM software in the market, and there is an uncertainty of what will happen in the future, which BIM software are we going to use in the future, and also we talk about Chuck Eastman's interoperable interoperability of that software. It's a tricky word. I'm not so sure he called it
Interoperability.
inter yeah, interoperability or interopen, that's kind of thing, right? So we need to, and also in previous episode we also talk about how to teach the students for the transferable skills from one software to another, how to prepare for the industry, and what is the best idea of preparing the industry. For example, like at my school, I was able to teach only one software to the students, and meanwhile I keep on repetitively reminding the students, to be open-minded and prepare for the schools, try other software by yourself, etc., etc., etc. But and also for your schools, and you teach the students for two software, Revit and ArchiCAD, right? So which is much better for the students, I believe. And for me, the way we are talking or teaching BIMs and preaching the students that okay, you can use other software, try it, and meanwhile, I also observe that these students are not even downloading. I said one time, I said, okay, SketchUp is not BIM, but it's a skills that you should take up, or you should try it. Or for example, like you can also try Photoshop by yourself, just a try, right? But students are too busy of their study or their things, and if we don't put it in the curriculum, they won't use it. So even though how much I preach, saying that there are so many BIMs are there, they are not using it. So transferable skills in BIM software, to me, is really really important, because in not just in New Zealand, not just in it's also in other countries. In architectural office or consultancy office, they need to use different software. So, for example, in a consultancy office, they need to use at least five software to develop a design. Nowadays, it's even more and more complicated, because if you do commercial project, you need to do the energy study. So there are a lot of energy study software, seismic, measure, calculation software. That kind of things are working together with BIM. So to go back to the questions, is transferable skills in BIM software. Not just that, the interoperability for BIM software is really important. It's not just for the students, not just for the classroom. It's also important for the job working conditions as well. That's my take. And and then what do you think about, for your opinions? What would you say about transferable skills in BIM software?
I do agree with you about the transferable skills with BIM software, because if you look at ArchiCAD, you draw a wall, you put a door in it. Revit, you draw a wall, you put a door in it. Vectorworks, you draw a wall, you put a door in it. The door, you open a dialog box, the door's got settings in Vectorworks, it's got settings in Revit, it's got settings in ArchiCAD. So all of these softwares do have lots of similarity, and yeah, there is a lot of transferable skills. So when you learn to set up layer combinations and save views in ArchiCAD, you can then transfer that skills to a Vectorworks project where we set up saved views, where we create viewports, where we use layers and classes to determine what we see. And that's really similar to this concept in ArchiCAD, where you've got the graphic overrides and the layer combinations, to set up the drawing or set up the views that you want. So there are some things that are really easy to see this interoperability. And the other thing is that I do think we need to introduce our students to more CAD, more programs. We've got that. We've got those last two papers: the industry project and the visualization and BIM course that we're going to teach next year. Those two, particularly the visualization and BIM course, that is a real opportunity for you to introduce different CAD software or different BIM software to allow the students to see how their skills are transferable from, for example, you could introduce ArchiCAD so that you could then start to show the students how what you've learned in Revit, how that applies to ArchiCAD. Or even, I mean, my favorite is Vectorworks because I've been teaching it for such a long time, but it's, you know, it's a bit of an uphill battle here. I'm still, there are so many people overseas that use it, and you can still produce great drawings and beautiful renderings. But let's not talk too much about that. But the skills are transferable in that way, because in Revit, if you've got stories of the building, in ArchiCAD you've got stories of the building, in Vectorworks you've got stories of the building, Chief Architect you've got stories of the building. These concepts are actually starting to become the core concepts for BIM modeling. And I think we need to make sure that the students realize that when the salesman comes around and says, oh, there's only one BIM software, that they have to say, well, that's ironic, really, because the whole point of BIM is interoperability, meaning that my files can be opened by somebody else, because in 20 years' time, we don't know what the computers will be doing. I mean, we barely know what the computers will do next year, let alone 5 years' time, 10 years' time. You know, I was having a look at the new Apple. Have you seen those Apple glassy things that they put on?
Oh yeah, yeah. And actually, I just look at Apple's and also the Microsoft. You remember when Microsoft came back, started 3 years back? They started with SketchUp, and it's more on the industry, how to use in the industry. Is just, and also they put it in goggles, as you can see through, and the guys with a hard hat walking at the side. So I'm not so, and also is expensive as Apple what is that they call it, Vision Pro things, right? So, but it's not. Microsoft is, I think, very poor at marketing. I think so. So it's not a hit in the market.
I was watching a YouTube video, and it said a mechanic. It said like, you know, like a mechanic in 2020. You know, there he is. He's got his book open on the top of the car, and he's greasy. And it said a mechanic in 2024, and this guy's got the Apple Studio goggle things on, and you can see what he can see, and he looks up. There's a YouTube movie showing what he should be doing to that part of the car, and he turns his head, and there's the owner's manual, and he turns somewhere else, and there's the documentation from, it was probably a Ford or something, but there's the documentation from the manufacturer, and then he looks down and there's his work, and he can work on it, look up, check something, carry back to work, look up, check something. Is this what we're going to, is this where CAD is going? Is this where our BIM is going to go, where we use some sort of input device and we wave our arms around in space and we model the building by wearing goggles and pushing and pulling our hands around?
I believe so, because, you know, when back to Microsoft advertise or introduce the market, is they target to construction industry. So, you know, the guys wearing hard hat and going to the site and look at the ducting or services, how is it, and also design how the architect and the clients work together to and discuss the design in the table, and they scale it by hand, by gesture or something like that. That's how is it. So yeah, I believe that would be, you know, BIM will be playing that kind of role in be it on the any platform like Microsoft or Apple. I think this would be the way forward. Yep. So, and also maybe designing, we were doing line. I think the way that we draw will be different. Also, architectural design will be different, because currently is like when we started by drawing by the wall, just 2 lines on the what is that, on the paper plane, sort of like paper
Hmm.
plane. But when we start literally designing a building in the space with the goggles, maybe the consideration would be different. The architectural
Is it,
challenges or the design concept will be, maybe we will get better product. I think so. And because we are seeing
so
3Ds, yeah,
I've just had a look online. I can see that it's called
yeah,
the Trimble XR10 with HoloLens 2,
yeah,
and it's
it's called
5,000
HoloLens.
US.
Yes, it's called
And
HoloLens.
obviously, because it's Trimble, it connects to the augmented reality. So you can actually go on site with the Trimble model,
Yes,
and then you can see what should be there as well as what's actually there, and you can actually check to make sure that beams are at the right height, that the service ducts are in the right location, all that kind of stuff. Pretty cool. But we started off talking about transferable skills in terms of BIM modeling.
yeah,
And so I'm curious as to whether, I mean, if we can wave our arms around with our Apple Studio Lens things on, that's a different input device. That's a completely different input device. And
yeah,
will you sort of look to the side, and there'll be a library of doors, and you'll grab it with your hands and actually shove it in the wall where you want it, and move it up and down with your hands in 3D. That could be quite cool. It could be a really staggering way of drawing. But then you start saying, okay, so what's if I teach my students to use mouse input now? What's the skill transfer between the mouse input and the augmented reality input?
yeah. That's quite interesting. I think it's like during our younger time, we drew drawings on the pen and paper, right? So starting from pen and paper, we started CAD, now BIM software. I think the future we are sort of seeing the futures, but it's like it still needs some maturity for that technology of augmented reality input. But I think slowly but surely it will go into that way. And
Hmm.
yeah, and also always be mindful, and we need to let the students know that okay, this must be the future. Be prepared for it. Well,
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. It was just a thought as you started talking about, the because at first you look at these lenses that Apple make, and they're what, $5,500 or something, and they're
yeah,
heavy, and the big battery on them. Um, but you start to think that's version one.
yeah.
What happens
So
when we
that
get
is the
version two?
crappiest. Yeah, that is the
Hmm.
crappiest in the series because this is version 1. It will getting smarter,
Yeah.
lighter, more powerful. Yeah,
I don't know if you've seen the video of the guy on the subway. There's
yeah,
a
I
video
saw
of a
it.
guy on the subway, and he's waving his hands around in front of him.
Yeah, I think
And
that wouldn't be a stranger or alien to in the futures. Maybe everybody will do it, like we are using
yeah, and it won't
iPhone.
be big.
Yeah,
The headset won't be as big.
yeah,
Um, it would be, yeah, it would be, yeah. I was just thinking it would be really cool. You go, I need a Marvin window. Go to my library, grab it with my hands. I need it to have, and then you can. I mean, because you could have it if you could be on site doing it, and so you can see the augmented reality, and you can go, I want my window. Oh man, if I put the window here, look at the view that I'm going to have. Oh, okay, leave the window there, and then you can go, okay, well, I need to put some joists, and you could like throw the joists,
yeah,
grab the joists from the library, throw them in the air so that they stick on top of the walls. I mean, it could be a really fun way to draw. And then
yeah, yeah, yeah.
you say to the glasses, okay, can you render this render this at sunrise? I want to see the client. I want to
Mhm.
see what it looks like when the sunrise comes through the windows.
Yeah, yeah, that would be different input, because this is how we interact with the new device. That would be really interesting. Yeah, that's maybe currently is a theoretical, but I think it will be the future. And yeah,
So
yeah, that's
so the transferable skills from that would be design, building code,
Hmm.
construction, and I guess the visualization, which I guess is design and visualization, will be similar, but coming up with the idea is still the transferable skill.
Yeah. In our lifetime, how many revolutions we have encounter? Okay, we started drawings with pen and paper. That's number one, basics. And then
Ink on paper.
CAD.
Ink on paper.
Yeah, ink and paper, Rapito.
Yeah.
Or yeah. And then we got
CAD. 2D,
CAD,
2D drawing.
2D drawings, and then CAD allows to draw 3D drawings and rendering. After that, we got BIM. We can input all the informations and coordinate between each other, interoperability or something like that.
I reckon I've been through 7.
Yeah.
I reckon I've been through 7 changes so far.
Really? Okay. Yeah, that's
pencil.
And it's in our
ink
lifetime.
On paper.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Drawing with
everything
Acropolis
in my lifetime.
MicroStation. Yeah. Drawing with MicroStation.
Yeah.
Learning Vectorworks.
Mm-hmm.
Vectorworks changed to be BIM, so that's another change. That's 6. Learning ArchiCAD. That's 7. So what are the transferable skills that I have developed would be how to communicate and how to think.
Yeah.
How to think in 3D. Because the thinking in 3D takes you all the way from the 2D drawings, which are the only means of communication, but representing a 3D model, all the way through to rendered images now is still about how you think.
Yeah. Yeah, it is, because, and another challenge I notice is that students, when we start teaching the drawings in 2D, and most of the time students struggle because it's very, this is the wall, 2 lines on the plan, this is the wall. When I say that, they can't grasp the idea of it, right? And also, this is you need to hatch 2 lines because architectural symbols and those things. But if instead of bringing a brick or bring a wall in 3D space, augmented reality, and start doing or curve walls or something like that, that would be fun to do it. And maybe also software requirements and usually it will be more challenging later on, but I believe that's the fun part is in it. And that's a transferable skills for the future. Now we talk about a history of our for 30, 20, 40 within 30 years, or there are a lot of changes. Yeah.
Well, you're going to ask how long. You're going to ask how long since I graduated.
Oh, for you,
I daren't think.
I'm not so sure. 40 years? You're 40 years? For me, this year I graduated 20 years from my
I dare not say.
Already.
You'll know just how old I am.
Oh well, yeah, I'm only 20 years old graduated.
Just a beginner, man. Just a beginner. Yeah, so I think it is important to make sure that we do teach our students the transferable skills that will last them throughout their career. The ability to think, the ability to analyze, the ability to design, the ability to communicate. These are things that are the major transferable skills.
Yeah. That's nice. Yeah.
I think we're finished. I think it's time to say goodnight.
Yeah. Good night, Jonathan.
Good night, Ethan. Thanks very much. Really enjoyed it.
Thank you.
Really enjoyed today.
Thank you.